Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
From beautiful Huntington Beach, California, on the HealthyLife.net radio network, heard in all 50 states and 135 countries, all positive talk radio. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com. And we're also coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks on 26 global audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, Blog Talk Radio, and the list goes on and on. In fact, we are very proud to be voted #1 podcast on FeedSpot out of thousands and #1 caregiver podcast on the top 50 on Player FM. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Therapist, dementia care specialist, caregiver advocate, and soon to be nurse, I think, Lisa Tharakan. Where did the care go? Shining hope and love into people's lives on a daily basis. But before we get started, I do want to take this moment and thank my last week's guest, Wes Donahue. He developed a unique speech approach to caregiving that's provided to be truly helpful. Join us in an in-depth discussion with the CEO of Helpful about why they're building a different type of caregiver support application. And just a reminder, you can listen to that show and any of our shows on caregiverdave.com or any of the 26 global audio and video platforms that I mentioned earlier. All right, enough of that. Lisa, so great to have you on the Caregiver Dave show.
Thanks for having me.
I always like to ask my guests, just who is Lisa Tharakan? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
You are.
And why was she placed on this earth? How's that for a first question?
Well, I have been a therapist for 10 years, and I actually just quit and then decided to change my route into nursing. So I'm studying for my boards currently, so hopefully I'll be passing soon and to become an RN.
Good. So you're familiar with caregiving, right? Some would call you a caregiving expert or a caregiving advocate. How do you describe yourself? Where did all your caregiving knowledge come from?
So I think originally, it started off just being a kid, showing up in my cultures, to take care of people. I naturally was in that role of wanting to make sure everyone was happy and making sure everyone was okay and taken care of. I've always wanted to ease stress out on my mom or make sure everyone's okay when they came to visit my house. So I think that's where it stemmed from.
Well, those are good attributes of a caregiver, wanting to make sure everyone is happy.
Yeah.
But sometimes caregivers can do too much. They can give and give and give till there's nothing left to give. They can feel guilty because they're not giving enough care or the best care that, in their opinion. And then, that causes burnout. Have you ever had or come close to burnout? And what caused it? And what did you do about it?
Yeah. So I personally have not. Well, I would say in a caregiver point of view, I have not, but as a healthcare worker, I have. So working in New York during COVID was probably the biggest caregiver burnout that we've probably seen globally, right? So we've seen people, healthcare workers, step out of that role wanting to be a healthcare provider, but having to take care of more than 6 patients a day or seeing sickness and illness constantly was hard. As a therapist, I can note a person that is burnt out very easily that come to me. So we provide caregiver training on how to take care of your loved ones. And even with that, it is a lot. It's a new role that you're never prepared for.
Right. Did the COVID in New York take its toll on you?
Fortunately, it has not. I kind of set myself up with the right mindset of like, this is going to be tough and this is going to be hard. And I need to be self-aware with like, I need to take care of myself. I need to put myself first. So for me, that kind of looked like, like I wanted to try a new skincare routine or hair stuff. Like it was something very little, or like I wanted to make sure I went out on a walk, or like, even though I worked those 16-hour days, it was really hard. And being in that suit for so long, I needed to make sure that like I also took care of myself first before I was able to take care of others. So there's a saying that I always live by is like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So always make sure your own cup is filled.
Good. Where did you learn these self-care techniques? Because 90% of caregivers don't know about them, and they usually figure them out after they burn out, but you seem like you got it all together. And did you learn it just from the industry you're in?
I would say so. I think like seeing like other people burnt out and like you're teaching them like how not to burn out yourself kind of puts you into this place of like, I better practice what I preach. Right, and then also I would say like it's from my faith as well. Like I know that like, for me, like I'm Christian. So like any worry that I've had, I'm naturally was like, I don't need to worry about it. I have someone bigger than me that could handle all this. Yeah. It's, easier said than done, like it's something you always have to constantly, practice what you preach. Like, even though I know all of this, I've been burnt out, so it's not something you could 100% avoid. It's just, how do you manage it?
Sure. Okay. Well, I don't know if you know the statistics or not. You probably do, but 30% of caregivers do actually die before their loved ones do. And if they're watching a Alzheimer's patient, that number goes up to 40%. And so for the 10% of lucky ones, oh, by the way, those who don't die and are not like healthy, they're considered the lucky ones, right? Because they didn't die. But however, I don't know. There's some things that are worse than death. They eventually become hospitalized and eventually need a caregiver of their own. So, it's always like you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. But let's say you're talking to some people, burnt out caregivers, or listening on this show mostly. What do you do now that you realize I can't go on? You want to quit. Some people, the suicide rate among caregivers is pretty high, and also police officers and first responders, and the statistics of people who are just checking out of life is alarming. What should they do to get back and get focused and get balanced?
Right. So when someone needs your support, it's very difficult to think about your own needs, your own goals, and who you are as a person. So a lot of times we start wrapping our identity in the people who we are caring for, and our ability to care for those people who becomes our sole measurement of our own self-worth. So when our parents aren't doing well, or kids are struggling in school, or when we mess up at work, it hits so much harder because we feel like we are a direct reflection of those who, as that person. So that's why it's important in needing to have an identity outside of the people that you are caring for. It's not only okay to do that, but necessary to continue to be a caregiver. You could hire respite care, you could get a sitter, you could ask your family, whatever it is that you need to do. You first need to understand that you need to take care of yourself first. Kind of like when you're on the airplane and you're asked, like you put the oxygen mask on yourself first, then you could help other people. It has to be like this non-negotiable of, like getting oxygen, or else you will find a reason to do something for someone else, and a way that you could do that is find support groups online, whether it's online or in person. You could utilize daycare if possible. There's adult daycares out there. It gives the person as a caregiver, like, a break, a time to take a nap, go grocery shopping, and also gives your person that you're taking care of for them to have socialization if they're able to. You could just know to like be gentle with yourself. Like you are doing what you can do. You're doing the best that you could do with what you have. Another way is, utilize the online resources. There's area agencies on aging. You could Google that. And then you could go to aarp.org. They have a lot of amazing resources. You could go on redcross.org, National Family Caregivers Association. They have like training courses for caregivers. So there are a lot of like online support stuff that you could utilize.
Wow, I totally agree. You offered a lot of tips and resources out there. And, a lot of caregivers are clueless about what help is out there, and there's so much help out there. Even, a lot of their complaints are about money, but there are many organizations that can help with the money also. I mean, if you are a vet, the one you're caring for, or their spouse was a vet, they can qualify for free assisted living facility residency. And I mean, that's just one of many. Social Security will pay a caregiver if that person is on Medicare or Medicaid, and because you're taking the burden off of the state, so they're going to help you out that way. So, are you familiar with any other financial resources that?
There's a website called adely.com. It's AIDLY. It's a state-by-state resource guide to figure out like compensation for people, like for eligible benefits or for caregivers themselves. And they'll like step-by-step like show you how to do with the tax returns and benefits that you could get, like you were talking about.
Wow, I didn't even know about that one. That's great.
Yeah.
I wrote that one down. How long have you been an occupational therapist, first of all? And I mean, were you born this way? I know you mentioned that in your culture, it's like you were a born caregiver. But when did you really learn that, wow, I'm really helping people and people are coming to me with their questions? I mean, when did you realize you were an expert, I guess is what I'm asking.
I honestly still struggle to feel like I am making a difference in someone's life, or like I'm an expert in this field. It's kind of like I've been doing it for so long, and I understand that like, I'm in this position to like, I'm providing care. I am making a change. I am helping. I have been a therapist for 10 years, and it's like this constant, it's almost becomes like a repetitive motion.
Right.
And it's kind of like you have to take the step back and be like, it's those moments of like the patient saying thank you, or like the moments of like, like I always tell the patients, you're going to hate me now, but you'll love me later.
I can totally relate, because sometimes I feel like, what difference am I making, even with this radio show, because not as many people are watching it that I think should be watching it, and caregivers are just so reluctant to help themselves, and very few of them will take advantage of it. And so, you wonder, am I making a difference? But then, you get that one letter or that one email or that one post that says, thank you so much for being there, because we rarely get thanked. It's a thankless job, helping caregivers, and caregivers helping their loved ones is a thankless job because they rarely get the appreciation and the respect that they need. I just want to encourage both of us, just keep on doing it, because there's a shortage of caregivers. There's a shortage of facilities. I call it the caregiver tsunami. It's just like Social Security. Too many people are taking out instead of putting in. And it's the same way. All the baby boomers now need care, and there just aren't enough care people to take care of them. We just have to keep encouraging each other. Now, most people are burned out, and they don't ask for help. Get any tips of, you just gave a whole list of things that they need to do, but knowing what you need to do and actually doing it are two different things. Because I can almost hear the audience say, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've been told that. Yeah. Yes, you did that. But how can they take the first step, right? Because a long journey always begins with the first step.
Right. I would say set realistic expectations. You want to be able to take the pressure off by doing big things, like having to, like, I need to go to the gym, or besides that, you could just take a couple minutes out of the day and get yourself ready, and then go take care of the person, then get the person that you're taking care of ready. Like, do small things at a time. Like, don't feel the need to like do the biggest and the most at first. Embrace your caregiver role. Like it's not, you're in that role for that, for a reason, and you should embrace it. Not everyone feels ready to be in that role. So like getting to know what the diagnosis is, it would be really helpful. Not just like what the diagnosis would look like in the beginning or in the middle, but like towards the end of it as well. And try to realize like, hey, can I do this? Like, or do I need to go get help? Or, like try to prepare yourself, because people, when they start their caregiver role, you're not prepared for it, right? Like you're kind of just thrown in there. So it's a lot for someone to handle. You should organize your caregiver duties. I think that's a big thing, and delegate when you can. So being organized and like, whatever it is that you need to do, like, checking vitals, write it down. And then being able to like, hey, I need help to take mom or dad to the doctor's appointment today. So it's just small things, step by step that you should be doing to avoid that burnout.
Yeah. And prioritizing and getting organized are essential. Are there tools that make getting organized easier? I mean, are there apps out there? And how do you prioritize? So, okay, I've got to go to the bathroom, but my loved one is calling me. What do I do first? I mean, sometimes it's hard to prioritize. Any tips on or things on the internet or technology that will help us prioritize better or organize better?
Yeah, I use Notion. It's an app, and then you could easily like write down. It's like a daily activity planner. Or if you're old school, I'm also that as well. I write everything down in a planner. For caregivers, it's like, okay, when did I give this medication at this time, or whatever it is. Like there's also adaptive equipment that you could use that will make the patient like, it'll set an alarm on the pill bottle and be like, time to take the medicine. So let the patient do, whatever it is that they can do as best of their ability. If they absolutely cannot, like being able to organize yourself by writing it down or using, there's an app called Notion. I don't know any other apps on the top of my head. But I could definitely look for someone like send it to you so you can give it out to your listeners.
Awesome. Now you've been an occupational therapist for 10 years, and I know what that's like because I've been to occupational therapists. My wife has, and I have a cousin in Florida who is also one. What made you decide to leave that and go into nursing? Because I've discovered, and I'm sure it's no surprise to you, that one of the largest burnout segment of society are nurses. They're overworked, underpaid, smoke like a chimney. It sounds like you're going out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Yeah, I actually get this a lot. It's like, why are you doing nursing now? Like, this is the worst time. Everyone's leaving nursing. Why do it now? Actually, I think like nursing, there's a lot more opportunities in nursing. I love like healthcare and love like taking care of people, and I wanted to do more, more than that I was doing as a therapist. So even with that, like I know myself, and I'm not gonna jump into it full time. In like, bedside nursing is what we will call it. And I wanted to do something a little bit more different. So I wanted to do like dermatology. So I want to do that the other part times, so it's like a great balance that I'm able to do, still doing a job that is beneficial and like meaningful to me.
Wow. You consider yourself a perfectionist. You're certainly a high achiever.
Absolutely not. I fail at a lot of things that I do, but I think it's like the determination and like the willingness to do things that are so uncomfortable to you, and like being told like, why change your career now? Like, that's a whole other thing. So I love doing like, I know like at the end of the day, like the main thing is taking care of other people, like doing also something that's beneficial and like that I value also in my life.
Yeah, maybe it's because of your youth. I mean, you look like a high school or a college student.
Well,
you mind telling us how old you really are?
No, I'm 33.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that explains a lot. You have a lot
Yeah.
of wisdom
I say
under
I'm
that young
33.
face. Say again?
I say I'm 33 on the outside, but I'm like 90 years old in the inside. Like my knees are hurting, my back hurts.
Oh my, you're
I
too young for
understand.
that to happen. I'm going to
Yeah.
be 70 in a few days, and
Wow.
I'm feeling what you're feeling. So I fear to think what you're going to feel like when you're my age.
Oh no.
Take care of your body too.
Yes, definitely.
Well, that's a great answer. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Okay, great.
I'm Dave Nasani. My fourth book, Secrets from the Hammock, Uncommon Wisdom for Uncommon Times, is a #1 bestseller on Amazon. As a young boy, I was told I possessed an unusual amount of wisdom for my age. As a young man, I found myself counseling friends and older family members whenever they needed answers to their problems. Then at 21, I read the Bible for the very first time and learned how King Solomon asked God for wisdom instead of riches, yet he received both. I was so impressed that I too asked God for wisdom. Soon after, I discovered when lying on my hammock, I would receive wisdom from God. This book is the result of my passion to share with the world wisdom's tremendous benefits. Join me as I reveal practical aspects of wisdom for the mind, body, and spirit. 31 lessons I learned from God that can change your life. Available in hardcover, Audible, Kindle, and paperback, wherever books are sold. I've spoken all over the country and London, and am available to speak at your event. Contact me at hammockwisdom.com. And welcome back to the Caregiver Dave Show. I'm Dave Nasani at caregiverdave.com, and we're talking to Lisa Tharakan, and we're talking about caregivers and burnout and all sorts of things. Obviously, caregivers are neglecting their health, they're neglecting their eating habits, they're neglecting going to the gym, they're neglecting their friends that they used to have before they were a caregiver. They're isolating themselves. People are
Yes.
offering to help and say, no, I got it. What's the mentality? Why are they doing this? Because maybe they don't even know why they're doing it. I know I did it, and I didn't know why I did it. Maybe, I didn't want to feel obligated, or, I'm a auto mechanic. I used to be, and I like to fix things, and, I'm sure I could fix my wife, but,
Right.
couldn't do it. But what do
Right.
you think?
I think that it's like this feeling of guilt of like having to step away, as a healthcare worker, I could spot out a burnt out caregiver almost instantly, and then we try to tell them like, there's other services out there that you could reach out to. And they're like, no, I got it. Like, I need to be there. I need to be the one. Like, we have family members that would come in during their lunch breaks, just to be like, I need to be there for their therapy session. And you're like, you don't need to be here. Like, it's okay. Like there's nothing else that you're providing into the care. If anything, like it's avoiding the person to get better. For example, like it's okay for like caregivers to ask for help. Culturally, it could be shameful, but at the end of the day, like how do you look in front of others, or choosing yourself to take care of your mental health is going to be better physically, emotionally, and mentally, or spiritually. No one does, like when people think about it, they're like, no one will do as good as me to take care of my mom or dad. And I have to be the one to be there all the time. So it's like trying to help reframe that thought to like, this is a difficult situation and it's not realistic for me to never take breaks. I need to allow myself to keep caring for my mom or dad or whoever it is, over the long haul. It's impossible for me to have the right solution for every problem to make the right decision. And you are only doing the best that you could do, like trying to reframe that thought.
Guilt is a subject that seems to plague caregivers. And, we spoke about perfectionism before. Perfectionism is the enemy because, you'll never do it perfectly. You'll never be without criticism. People will always criticize you, your loved ones, or maybe even siblings who think you're not doing a good job. And I always say, well, if somebody doesn't think I'm doing a good job, take over. I'll gladly step back and let you, but those are the ones who
Yeah.
usually don't help either. And there are always, siblings that are the chosen ones. The loved one wants them and them only, and doesn't feel comfortable with another sibling.
Mm.
What do you recommend if people are feeling just so overwhelmed and they're not getting any help, and the siblings aren't helping them, and or in some cases, parents, if they're caring for someone else, aren't helping them, or their kids aren't helping them? How do you enlist people to help when nobody wants to help?
Right. So at that point, like it's like this feeling of alone in this. So I would recommend going online and like seeking those caregiver help support groups. Like those, those support groups will be your best friend. And all those aids that we've listed earlier, it would be very beneficial to help someone, be able to like take care, asking for help, outside of your family, like, to different resources. So I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. And then guilt, I think of Sanford and Son, how Lamont Sanford used to take care of his elderly father, Fred, and Fred was always manipulating him and using guilt as a tool, Remember that? He said, oh, it's a big one. No, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
come on, bring it, honey. It's a big one. And Lamont would fall for that every single time. And caregivers are the same way. How can they kind of immune themselves from the feelings of guilt, let it roll off their back like water on a duck?
I think that like it is having your own boundaries of knowing that like you need to like be able to choose yourself first in order to help other people. It's like you're going to feel guilty, but like in order for you to be able to take care of someone else, you should be full yourself, like be able to take care of yourself first. Because if you think about it and you're like, you're not your 100%, the care that you're be providing to other people, to your loved one is not going to be your 100%, like you're going to be more irritable, like you're going to be, like tired, like, people don't get a lot of sleep. So you want to be able to like choose yourself and tell yourself it is okay for you to do that. Like try not to feel that guilt or shame of like, I am trying to like, I just need space to breathe for myself.
I can almost hear people who heard what you said say, well, wait a minute now, isn't some guilt good? Isn't guilt like a traffic cop who's trying to tell you, hey, danger, Will Robinson, why are you feeling guilty? Did you do something to deserve feeling guilty? Or is it the other thing? There's deserved guilt and undeserved guilt, because some people are very good at dispensing guilt, whether it's deserved or undeserved. How can someone determine if they're feeling guilt, if they should listen to the guilt, change their behavior, and fix it, or if they should just ignore the guilt?
I feel like guilt comes with this, this self-identity crisis of like, I'm just like not worthy of like having a good time right now because my loved one is at home sick, like I am just not worthy of this, because of like other things, but you have to know that you are worthy of goodness and happiness in your life. And sometimes we forget about that when we take care of other people. So you should be able to give yourself permission to take a break. Like you cannot be on like 24/7 all the time, give yourself time to be still with absolutely no demands. Whether if that's locking yourself in the bathroom or being in your car for an extra 5 minutes, like just be still with yourself and like know that you yourself are worthy of happiness in your own life.
Yeah. Some people will lose their temper when they get guilty or overwhelmed. And sometimes just going to the bathroom, like you said, that's probably one of the few places that you can get away with stealing 5 minutes. And you say, hey, I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
And
even as
vent
a
or count
healthcare.
to 100, or maybe take a glass of wine in there with you. I don't know. Whatever it takes. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Even like as a healthcare worker, like sometimes I need to take that, extra 5 minutes to myself because it's a tough day, like
Yeah.
you have all these tough patients, they're very demanding and you're just on the go, but sometimes like I'll just go to the bathroom and be like, I just need a second. Like, I just need a second to myself with nobody else talking to me and no one else like demanding me to do something. Yeah. And then I'm able to step out and be like, okay, let's go. What do you need?
Yeah. And I'm not promoting smoking cigarettes, but if you are a smoker and you need a cigarette, I mean, we can't take away all your vices. You brought up support groups, which are very, very important. I know until I found a support group, my wife had a stroke for 27 years. You met her. She's doing great. I mean, she's like a cross between Martha Stewart and Wonder Woman. She still can't talk, but she can communicate non-verbally better than most people can.
Yeah.
And she has this power chair, and she goes around faster than I do. And so a lot of times I need a chair just to keep up with her when we go to amusement parks with our grandkids or stuff. How do we educate caregivers on a mass basis? Because I have a Facebook group with 34,000 caregivers. And I'll put in, very educational things in there, and very few of them will read it. But then I'll put in some silly meme that talks about something that, will make a caregiver laugh. And I'll get 30,000 likes and shares and comments and this and that. And I'm thinking, you're liking the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
There's many different ways to educate people, right? And everyone's different, whether they're kinesthetic or audio or visual. What's the best way for people like us who are trying to save caregivers to educate them? I mean, we can't just send them memes every day. Maybe we can. I don't know.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is such a great, thing is like, having the podcast. And it's like you're saying, even though I have this podcast and I have this Facebook group and I'm giving out all these people information and that they're just not receiving it, it's not up to us, right? What we want other people to receive. It's like it's what it is that they're ready for. And knowing that like, hey, I know these resources are there. It's just that individual understanding that, like I need to reach out and I need help. So continuously talking about it and being in their face is probably the best thing, so
being a thorn in their flesh, huh?
Yes, exactly. So I will be a broken record about a lot of things. Like when I see, my patients with their caregivers there and they are just like, one comes in their shower cap or in their pajamas. And I'm like, I will tell them every single time, you have to be able to ask for help, like take care of yourself. And even they're like, I know, and they just brush it off. It's just like, at least, you're doing your work and your duty to provide like the information, to the other caregivers.
Let's talk about the grief process, specifically depression, which is one of the stages of grief. First, why don't you tell us the stages of grief and how you can determine the difference between depression or just being sad? Because, I mean, most people who commit suicide are depressed first. Sometimes, we shouldn't miss the signs that someone is in a bad place and maybe should see a doctor, maybe should be on antidepressants or whatever. Go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah. So people that you'll see that will be in that depression phase is failing to be committed to their social like commitments prior. Like they'll see them like saying, hey, I can't go there. There's always an excuse of like why they can't be there, but they're at home, like with their loved one or just like to themselves. Withdrawn, you could see people just like completely like just out of it. For like suicidal is like people giving away their stuff or giving away their money, like it's one of the first like indicators. Depression versus being sad is just like there's absolutely just no joy in them in anything. They're just like a moving machine of like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I have to go here. Like, and they're just so used to like their movements every day that there's no like happiness, within them. You don't see them smile or like even it could be with people. Yeah. Like even it could be with people that are just overtly happy, like you have to watch how you see a lot of like comedians that commit suicide, like it's like they, like the way that their jokes are, you have to pay attention to what they are joking about and then really ask them like, hey, are you okay? There's like, so many different things, especially if like who that person is and you're like, you seem different. It's just acknowledging that there is something going on and like letting them know like you are there for them.
Yeah. And sometimes they don't give you clues. I mean, I had a stepbrother. I was going sailing one time and stopped at my father's gas station, and he was working there. And then he says, "Hi, Dave, where are you going?" I said, "Oh, hi, John. I'm going sailing." And I heard this voice in my ear saying, "Invite him to go with you now." But instead, I heard come out of my mouth, "Yeah, you should come with us next week, you know." And he said, "Oh, yeah, cool." I get home. We had a nice sailing trip. I get home. The phone rings. My father calls. And I says, "Hey, what's up?" And there was silence on the other end of the line. And finally, he broke the silence by saying, "John killed himself tonight." I said, "No, I just saw him. We're going sailing next week."
Yeah.
Don't ignore the voice, the intuition, the Holy Spirit speaking,
Right.
because even though there's he didn't give any indications to me that he was suicidal.
Right.
I went to school with him practically all my life. And then all of a sudden so God was helping me by whispering in my ear, and
Yeah.
I didn't listen, and I dealt with a lot of guilt, but I had to forgive myself because I knew God forgave me.
Right.
So I want to talk about, how do we know when it's time for our loved one to enter a facility? Maybe we're not sleeping well because they're up constantly, like a newborn baby every 2 hours. They need to be turned, or they need to go to the bathroom, or they need their diaper changed, or whatever. Or on the other hand, maybe they're still driving and they're pretty dangerous driving. And you take away the car keys. How do we confront them when there needs to be some kind of a change, whether it's in where they live or the automobile, etc.? And a lot of times, we're talking about elderly parents, perhaps, and the children of role reversal. They're now acting like a parent, and the parents are acting like a child.
Right.
Difficult situation.
Right. You could start with like a daycare facility. It's just for a couple hours during the day. Or if it's time to go to a facility, it would be a lot more nursing care that you're able to provide. Like if they need an IV, they need feeding tube changes, like whatever it is that you feel like incompetent to do, which, like everyone would be able to learn how to play that role, but there's to a certain point that people with dementia, for example, like mom and dad's running out in the middle of the night, like I'm like, I feel bad, like I'm just locking them in a room kind of thing to for their safety. When it becomes one of a harmful thing for themselves, I think it would be an appropriate time to send them to a facility. Or it could be post stroke, like I need them to work on muscular strength, or their speech therapy and more aggressive approaches than what you could provide as a caregiver, to let the experts like an occupational physical speech therapist to help and with nursing as well.
Let's talk about spirituality, and how does God and spirituality play a role in a caregiver just making it and tolerating it, and not just surviving but thriving? I know my faith is very important. I couldn't do it without my faith.
Me either.
Is it just me, or is it everybody? Do they have some kind of faith? Or, I mean, you can put your faith in this chair that it's not going to break when you sit down on it, but I think you need to put your faith in more than that.
Yeah. I mean, I will, even though you don't know what your patient's faith is or anything, it doesn't matter to me. I'm still like, it's okay. I could do all things through Christ, right? Like, who strengthens me. So that's like our favorite verse that I'm like, I could do this. Like, I have God on my side. And even if I don't feel like I'm ready for this role, there's certain diagnoses that I work with that I'm like, I can't do this. Even switching into nursing, I'm like, this is going to be hard. Like, I have to save someone's life. Like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I'm built up for this. And it's like the self-doubt that in my faith that I will understand that God will give me the faith and the desire, to want to be better and do good, And I think that I feel like I'm protected by God's peace, that I'm okay with whatever it is, the outcome, even if I don't make that person happy, I'm okay, myself, because I know I did what I could do. And as a healthcare worker, like I sometimes like I'll be like, let's just pray, or let's start off our day with prayer, or I'll play like Christian music in the back. It'll like calm their sensory system down a little bit. And that's just something I do on the daily as a practice. Like for even, I don't ask like, hey, are you Christian or anything? It's something I just do.
What's their response when you just do it?
Oh, they like the way that they are, like it's like this guard goes down. It's kind of like, some of my patients are Christian, so they're more than happy to like start the day off with prayer, or they're at the end of their life and they're like, all I need is like, God, I need help, like that's what they're seeking out to. People that are not, you could see them being like, I could tell like they are not as tense or aggressive or, anything. And I just feel like it's the way that I approach them and the way that like the environment is set out to be for them.
Yeah. Well, in our final 5 minutes, what would you like to talk about that I haven't asked you or we haven't discussed?
I would say like, as a caregiver role, it's just knowing to like, it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to like, like if you don't know where to go to ask for help, just Google it and like listen to this podcast and like look back at the resources that I've listed. And there are government assistance. There is help, healthcare is not the same anymore. Like you're going to feel like the doctors don't give me time. I just, I don't feel like I have like the attention from everyone. Like no one's listening to me. No one's taking care of like the best of their ability. Be patient and be kind to yourself and to other people. And along with like what you've mentioned before with depression and everything, it's like always, trying to invite other people out to things that you yourself, like would want to go and do or be invited to, like understanding that like, I making the time out for other people, to like making them feel seen, like having that conversation with them just to get to know them, whoever it is.
Now, you're a dementia care expert. How is dementia, caring for a dementia patient, different than any other patient? Are they kind of in their own category or class?
Yeah.
Is it any different?
Yeah, you have to meet them where they are, kind of. If they're in 1920, you're
right?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. You are playing a lot of mind tricks, and you will meet them if they're in 1920. You're also in 1920, and you're just like, all right, great. Like if someone's like, I need to go find the keys for my car, you don't tell them, sweetie, you don't have a car, you don't have keys, you haven't driven in so long. You're like, all right, let's go take a walk. Let's go find those keys. Like try to.
You don't argue with them.
You don't argue with them at all. So, and
that is so hard.
Yeah. And you're going to have to like be repetitive in a lot of like things that you say, like their memory is not always there. So even if you just told them like 2 minutes ago, like, like for example, I have someone that just broke their hip who has dementia, and she's like, I have a lot of pain, and she'll complain about her pain like every 5 minutes. And you're just like, yeah, you broke your hip, like, and you just have to continue to repeat that and like trying to teach them their hip precautions when they can't remember it is continuously, it's a challenge, but it's just repetition.
And I'm going through this right now with my aunt, my mother's sister. She has dementia. I'm her caregiver. And I take care of the medications. My sister takes care of the finances. And every now and then, this is the third time now, she goes on this rampage of my pearls are missing, my jewelry is missing, this is missing, and you took it. How could you take it? I love you. I mean, how can you do this to me and this and that? And she's just doing this again. And last time was like 2 months ago. And it's like I can't even talk to her because she's just has this hatred and disappointment for me. A lot of times I just have to hang up the phone because she won't stop and let my sister try to deal with it. What do you do when somebody turns on you like that and thinks you're stealing from them? Because that's very common.
Yeah, it's very common.
And they're not going to trust me. No, I don't want my meds. I don't want meds anymore. I don't want you coming over and giving me anything. Stay away.
Yeah.
What do you do about that?
I know it's very common. I would buy a set of fake and kind of give it to them. Like one of my patients accused me of like stealing money, like accused all the healthcare workers there of stealing money. So we cut up little dollar bills, like fake money, and put it in their pocket and be like, it's in your right pocket. And because they don't, they don't really know. And they're just like, oh, okay. Like they just need that tangible item that's kind of there.
I don't think that'll work with pearls though.
I know. I think we could find fake pearls somewhere, maybe Amazon. But
they do lose a lot of things, and
giving them something like your aunt, maybe a purse with like different items in it. It doesn't have to be like their specific thing. Like just giving them something to like with dexterity and like fine motor for them to like play with.
Well, Lisa, I can't believe how fast our time is gone. How can listeners get a hold of you if they want some more information? I mean, do you have a website or something? I
don't have a specific website that I use.
Email?
But you can email me. My first name, Lisa, my last name, Tharakan, THARAKAN @gmail.com.
All right. And remember, all our live shows become recorded pod or video casts on your favorite platforms. My #1 selling book, Secrets from the Hammock, Uncommon Wisdom for Uncommon Times, is spreading wisdom all over the world, available wherever books are sold. My website, caregiverdave.com. My Facebook page, Caregiver Dave. Lots of tools and resources. There's a place on my website to schedule a free 30-minute coaching call, take care of something that you're struggling with. And did you know that if you click the like or follow button on any of these platforms you're watching or listening on, it helps us reach even more caregivers by improving Google's search engine algorithms. So a true heartfelt thank you to all my listeners out there, to Lisa. Thank you so much. And all those who help and tune in every Wednesday, making us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet. So until next week, same time, same channel. May God richly bless you all. Bye-bye.
Hi, thank you.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.